Hello everyone, welcome to another Education Quest Live. I am Jason, and this month I have Ethan here. Ethan is a current college student, and he's here to kind of talk to us about his experience applying for scholarships and talk about like what he found and kind of how that process worked.
Yeah.
And so hopefully some of his experiences and stuff will translate to maybe what you're going through. And so if you have any questions for Ethan or for me, you can put those in. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. So on YouTube, they're usually over to the side, and on Facebook, they're typically down below. So feel free to input any questions that you have for either of us there throughout the broadcast. And if you are not watching this live and you're watching a recorded version of this, you can ask any of those questions at any of that time, and we do continue to monitor those throughout the months and that stuff. So feel free, if you're watching this at any time, to reach out to us there. So Ethan, let's kind of just start with the basics.
Sure.
Tell us a little about yourself, maybe where you go to school.
Yeah, I'm currently at UNO,
Okay.
and this is my third year, and I'm studying civil engineering.
Civil engineering, okay. And UNO, University of Nebraska, Omaha.
Yep.
Occasionally we run into people that don't know that. Well, I'm a hockey fan, so it makes all kinds of sense to me, but we have gotten that conversation about Lincoln in a few times. So you've been there third year. Mm-hmm. So you're halfway through your third year at this point, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And civil engineering, what made you decide to do civil engineering?
Oh, I always wanted to do engineering. I was lucky enough to know that kind of going through high school. I've just figured out that that's what I was interested in.
Yeah.
And I started off actually in architectural engineering because of the Durham School here in Omaha. They pitched that to me, and it seemed like a really cool place to be. And then I got here, and my interests changed a little bit. Wanted to focus more on water resources and that kind of stuff, but that's only in a civil degree, not in an architectural degree. So I changed spring of last year.
So is that a major change for you, or was that just kind of like you're still an engineering major, you just changed your emphasis and the types of classes you're taking?
Yeah, it wasn't a super huge deal. The classes all the way up until that point had lined up, so I took 2 summer classes to get caught back up.
Yeah,
and then I was right where I needed to be.
So not too bad.
Nope.
So I understand that you kind of earned a lot of scholarships, attending college and that stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about the types of scholarships that you earned?
Mm-hmm. There was a few of them that kind of just went in, it went in with my regular college application, like the Regents I applied to both UNL and UNO.
Okay.
So the Regents application was into that. I applied for one through Cornerstone Bank in Henderson, where I'm from, and then through the Windsor Tucker Scholarship through the York Community Foundation, and I think that was and then one more through the Nebraska Blood Bank.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of those, like you mentioned, are things that you didn't have to do anything extra for, like the Regents and that stuff. That was just part of your application. What else went into earning that Regents Scholarship? Because that's a big one. I mean,
right.
that's a huge scholarship.
Right.
And a tremendous achievement on your part, for sure.
Thanks. I think a lot of the Regents has a lot to do with kind of the information they can pull right off your application. I know ACT score is a huge qualifier in Lincoln and Omaha. It's a 32 in Lincoln. I got a 31 on the ACT, but they also take into consider GPA and class rank too, so that eligibility varies. But that was pretty big for Regents. And I also got one from the Durham School. And I think I didn't apply for that. I got a letter in the mail, so they must have pulled the same sort of info from
your admissions stuff.
Yeah, and that's where they would have got all that. And I'm sure I wrote an admissions letter, initially, right? But other than that, wasn't anything.
It's kind of the best scholarships, right? You don't have to do any extra work. They just kind of throw money your way and you say thank you and move on, right? So how important would you say is it to get good grades, particularly in high school, throughout high school, not just, focusing on senior year or anything like that.
Right. Well, that GPA was overall, I think, and the ACT score. I mean, both of those, I think, are really important to, if the scholarship is just saying, basing off of, is awarding you based off those criteria, then it's really important to have good grades all going through high school. I think there are some that will value like student involvement, community involvement more.
Yeah.
And then once they sort of pull their applicants from that, then they'll use grades to sort of differentiate from that point on.
So sometimes it's important because of things like the Regents that are just automatic scholarships, but then it's also sometimes important for some of those other ones that maybe don't have a strong academic component, because that's then what kind of sets you aside from other applicants.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about like your community involvement and how that helped you earn scholarships, because you mentioned some that you were kind of focused on, you being involved in something in the community.
Yeah. So the Nebraska Community Blood Bank Scholarship came pretty much directly from my involvement with National Honor Society.
Okay.
I spent my senior year working in that organization as the president, and organized a blood drive, and was kind of just but that position and the work with the blood drive got me that scholarship from them. And then for the Windsor-Tucker scholarship, I'd say community service or not just the school involvement is a huge part of what goes into that, because they're not just looking at grades either.
Right. So let's talk about letters of recommendation. That's something that we recently did a couple videos on, and it's one that if you go back in our live video playlist on YouTube, you can find some that we've done on that stuff. What would you say is kind of a key component to the letter of recommendation, and who did you look to when you needed a letter of recommendation?
I think those go hand in hand. Who you ask is probably the most important thing that goes into it, because you want them to know you and know what kind of practical situations you've been in, and they can attest to then your character and your work ethic and your performance and all those good things. But secondly, I asked some upperclassmen who they had write letters of recommendation for, because they were successful in getting some scholarships. And like there was somebody who had got the Windsor-Tucker before I did.
Oh, okay.
And I knew that the teachers that they had write letters for recommendation, I was really close to too. So
okay.
I pulled from that resource.
So it's great that you looked at, some of your friends and stuff that, had gone through that before and used that as kind of a guide for how you can get to that same point.
On the shoulders of giants.
Right. It's easier when you follow footsteps.
Yeah.
There is a question they wanted to ask about the NSAA Believers and Achievers Scholarship.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us more about that one.
That was... I can't remember. Was there a scholarship with it? I know there was an award. It was a couple years ago.
Oh.
I guess I know I put it on other applications, so I'm sure it helped.
Yeah.
With that too. But that was a pretty cool honor to be a part of that.
So was that an award or something that you received?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I applied my senior year.
Yeah.
Right, beginning of senior year.
So that's the kind of thing, we have the activities resume on our website that we really encourage students, while they're going through high school and stuff, to maintain this essentially just a record of the things that you do while you're in high school.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that's a great thing to put on there, because you might get something like that sophomore year or something, and you'll want to remember that senior year when you're applying for scholarships, because that may lead to a scholarship. Apparently it was a $500 scholarship.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
If you were wondering where that came from.
I did use that tool though.
Yeah.
Your Education Quest tool.
The activities resume?
Yeah. And to keep everything
That's
sort
awesome.
of logged during my junior and senior year.
Yeah, because I remember, long time ago and stuff, when I was in high school and that, a lot of the hardest thing for me was, what did I do freshman year?
Yeah.
I'm a senior now, and so much has happened and so much changes for students going through that it is beneficial to start it when you're a freshman and just kind of keep plugging it in there on a regular basis. We put out on social media, a lot of times you'll see our posts about the activities resume during the breaks when you have spring break and fall break and that stuff, because it's a good opportunity to just kind of say, all right, what have I done the last 8 to 12 weeks, right? And not have to go, well, what did I do back in August?
Yeah.
It's June. And so, and that can really then help. And occasionally I know some scholarships do request that. Did any ask for activities list or resume? Or
they would ask
like
for a resume in itself,
Yeah.
that I would attach with it. And I just pull from the activities resume and just plug in there.
Pick and find out of that. So.
It's also, and having that skill going into college is huge too. I've got to do that to graduate.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
And then it translates to career stuff too.
Yeah.
You start looking for a job, and it's like, it's the same process. It's picking out the things that matter the most to that employer. And so it's a good kind of experience to kind of go through. So if you are a high school student, doesn't matter where you are, it's a free tool. We'll put a link in the description, and you can go onto our website and start your activities resume and just kind of keep that running list. And it exports out into Word and that, so you can just kind of copy and paste straight out of it to kind of help you get through that. So let's talk about essays, because that's something that I know a lot of students kind of stress about.
Yeah, and I hated them.
Did you?
I really did. But they had to be done. So
yeah, it's a necessary evil, right?
Right.
Do you remember how many you had to write?
I wrote one for UNL, one for UNO, and sometimes those are the same. But I wrote two separate ones. And then Windsor Tucker and Community Blood Bank and Believers and Achievers and the Cornerstone Bank. So I wrote 6 of them. 6? Wow.
And were they, you mentioned that like UNO and UNL were kind of the same, probably because a lot of it's admissions attached to it.
Correct.
But those other ones, was it a completely different essay every time, or did you kind of start with one and modify it?
No, each application kind of wanted to see a different side, and so I really tried to tailor it to what they were looking for,
right?
And which experiences I thought would reflect whatever qualities they were looking for.
Right.
So I did write 6 different essays.
Did you feel that there were overlapping parts that, after you did the first one, you kind of had?
Oh, yeah. I kind of started with the same base model of me.
Right.
And I'm like, this is what I value, and this is these are the things I'm looking for in a future, in a career.
Right.
And then I would take whatever experience I thought was most relevant to the scholarship or to the foundation that I was applying to, and sort of pull from that experience and say, this is how my values translate into that, and then sent it to them.
Yeah. That's a really good tip to kind of, for students that are applying, to take a look at, what organization is giving out that scholarship, what their mission is, what their values are, what they strive to do, those types of things, and see, how is it that what you did lines up with what they're trying to do. It's just going to be more relative to that review committee when they start looking at it, and obviously it was successful.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and
good strategy.
I think throughout that, it's important to show yourself as like a rounded individual too.
Right.
So on some of them, if they didn't have any questions about my academic experience,
right.
and I just had GPA and ACT score and stuff listed, then I'd try to show more volunteer or community service stuff in the other essays to sort of round out the application.
Yeah. Okay. So far we've talked a lot about like what you've received in the application process, but a lot of the work is just on finding them.
Yeah.
Some are easy because they're part of, like we talked about the Regents, and that's just part of your admissions application. There's nothing more you have to do. Just make sure you get that in on time. But where did you look for scholarship? How did you find these?
I looked to upperclassmen and saw. I mean, every year at graduation, we'd have a pamphlet, and it'd say, "These are what these students have earned from where." I sort of kept track of that and which students were earning a lot of money and where they were applying, and that went with who I asked for letters of recommendation. So the upperclassmen, and then my guidance counselor put out a lot of material for us of scholarships to apply for in the area. And then I kind of just kept my ears open. I didn't actively go out and look for a whole bunch other than that. I mean, a few websites I'd just scroll through and say, like, these were super easy to apply for, and I don't think any of those I thought I had a solid chance at. And those were more national, so I applied for more local ones where I thought I had a better chance.
Yeah, we've had Allison on a live broadcast before, and she talked about, a lot of times the easier it is to apply, the more people that do apply, and your odds of receiving it then kind of go down. Right. And so it's always this kind of balance between the amount of time that you have to put into this and that potential outcome,
right?
When you're looking at just the overall applicant pool. So, did you use Scholarship Quest on our website at all?
I don't think so, but I wish I would have.
So we do have, for everyone out there, we'll put a link in the description. We have Scholarship Quest on our website, which we've talked about in our Scholarship Minute every month, and on our live broadcast when we talked about scholarships with Allison way back when. But it is just a local search tool, so it weeds out a lot of those national ones that you mentioned that are just these high applicant pools. A lot of small dollar stuff, but it's it's local awards, it's things like community service types of things. We focused on a lot of that stuff. So it's a really simple process. You're going to just go through and build a set of who you are and what you've done, and this is kind of what criteria that goes into you being you, and then the tool is going to automatically kind of match over 2,000 awards to what you have and give you just kind of a list of. Here's what you might be.
That actually sounds familiar.
I think
I did use it.
There you go.
Yeah.
They all start to run together, and it was a few years ago. So, like everything on our site, that's free. So it's definitely something you can use. And you mentioned in your response that you kind of look to the upperclassmen.
Right.
One of the things we encourage students to do with Scholarship Quest is look at if you're a sophomore or a junior, look what you might earn when you're a senior, and you can go in there and say, if I was a senior right now, what would I be eligible for? And you'll see all those types of things, so you can kind of go in there and say, all right, these are the things I can plan for. Or, maybe you see a scholarship that says, hey, you need 40 hours of community service and you've only got 30. Well, get your 10 in before senior year and, make yourself eligible for that. So that's a good tip, to kind of look to people that have been through it and use their experience again to kind of guide you going through that.
Somebody's already done it. So
they've already put in the work.
Yeah, so why reinvent the wheel?
Right? Just roll it down the hill. So how much time do you think you actually spent applying for scholarships, throughout your senior year?
There was about, I listed 6, so about 6 big essays that I wrote. And I'd spend 3 to 4 hours on an essay, just kind of spill everything at once, and then another 3 hours go back in and nitpicking and rewriting it.
Right.
So that, and then maybe another hour just filling out the rest of the applications and printing out documents that had to be mailed in and asking for letters of recommendation, maybe 2 hours. So 6 times 4 and then another 2 is like 26 hours.
So
total.
Are you saying 6 per application?
Yeah.
So 20 hours invested for one scholarship. I mean, even if you earn a $200 scholarship, that's getting you $100 an hour wage, right? Like,
not bad.
Yeah. So the investment wise really isn't too bad, especially even on the small, scholarships.
Right. And that, and they pay forward too. Like the Believers and Achievers Scholarship, obviously I put a lot of time into that essay and when I applied for that, but then it also helped me get all the other ones too. So those rewards stack pretty quickly.
Did you pay attention when you were applying to which ones were renewable that you'd get every year you were in school versus ones that you just got one shot at?
A big push for the Windsor Tucker was that it was renewable.
Yeah.
That's why I really, really went after that one.
Yeah, that really helps, when it's money that you get every year, as long as you maintain academic standings. Speaking of scholarships that students can apply to, we've got one that's probably the easiest one ever. It's literally just a roll of the dice, but we give away a scholarship when we hit 250 new followers on Facebook and on YouTube, or on Twitter and on Instagram.
Okay.
And I looked this morning, we've hit our Twitter number. So later today, I'm going to be posting a link so that you can apply. It's eligible for any Nebraska high school student. So you can be a freshman in high school and be eligible to get that scholarship. So you'll want to follow us on Twitter and watch for that tweet that has the link to apply. It's 4 questions, I think. 4 or 5 questions. Click submit. And then we draw a name out of a hat when it closes in 3 days. So great opportunity for you just to kind of take one quick shot at $500.
Yeah.
And if you're a freshman, that gets invested, so that could end up being more than $500 by the time you actually get to school, which is great.
Nice. And
on top of that, we're only like a handful of people away from giving it away on Facebook too. So if you're watching on Facebook and listening to this and thinking, what can I do right now to start my scholarship process, that's what you can do to start. Click that like button, like us on Facebook, and then hopefully we'll get those 5 here in the next few, and I'll open that one up this afternoon as well. And then if you want another shot and take a threefold, go over and like us on Instagram. And I think we're only like 20, 30 people away on there, so we may hit that one today or tomorrow as well. So 3 opportunities, $500 each chance, so a really great opportunity.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Take full advantage.
No essays. So all he's talking about having to go through all that stuff, you don't have to worry about any of that. We take that all off the table, make it pretty easy for you. So let's do. We kind of decided we're going to do this like quick fire thing for you.
Okay.
Here, so we'll go through these 5 questions, just really quick answers. What should students be doing all 4 years of school?
You got to focus on grades, because a lot of scholarships, when you're applying, that's kind of the first thing they're looking for. And that really, your class rank, your GPA, and your ACT score are really what sets you apart for a lot of these. And then besides that, find an organization that you really like, and get into it early, and just live it and breathe it for a little bit, and really decide that that's what you want to do, and get some good experiences out of that you can talk about.
So when should students start looking for scholarships?
I started looking beginning of my junior year, and I think that was good. That was good to see 2 years of what's required, and then I can talk to any seniors too about what they were earning and what I needed to look for. Yeah.
So your advice, better to focus on local scholarships or national scholarships?
I'd say local scholarships, and that might just because it worked for me, but I think it depends on where you're from. I was from a small town,
right?
So the pool was relatively small, and I hedged my bets there,
right?
Yeah,
put your money in the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
Best person to ask for a letter of recommendation.
If you've got any small classes and you've got a good rapport with the teacher, ask them. And even if you don't have you're not super close, but you know that they can write and that they care about their students, ask them, because that's awesome to have a teacher who knows who might know what the board or whoever is looking for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they've written letters before.
So last one, reuse a scholarship essay or write a new one?
I guess it depends on how invested you are in the scholarship. But I mean, I would rewrite them, honestly.
Yeah.
But
best chance.
Yeah, I think so. If you got the time. If you want to apply for a bunch of them, you gotta do what you gotta do, and you can reuse them.
Well, Ethan, thanks so much for joining us today and talking to us
Yeah.
about your scholarship journey and
Absolutely.
everything you went through. I'm sure there's plenty of information that people watching are going to find helpful as they're going through their journey. So we really appreciate you taking your time today.
Yeah.
And thank you all for joining us on Education Quest Live. If you have any questions about anything, comment section is open. Feel free to drop it in there. Any questions you have about FAFSA and planning for college and stuff, we'll take them all. We'll answer them all down there. And we'll see you next month on another Education Quest Live. Bye.